Hi, folks. Welcome to Ask Evelyn, where we come to you every week and answer your questions about compost, recycling, garbage, and other trashy topics. I'm your host, Becca Fong, and this is our episode Zero Clues about zero waste. We're here to help you unpack some of the questions that you guys have about the zero waste movement and exactly what that is. Twitter, Instagram, and of course, you can send us an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov. Pat, perfect timing.
All right. Well, hello.
And here's my co-host.
Hey, everybody. I'm Pat Kaufman. I'm the Commercial Recycling and Composting Program Manager for Seattle Public Utilities, helping businesses recycle and compost, reduce waste. And so that's good stuff.
Absolutely. So, Pat, we got a good question today about zero waste.
We did have a good question. I'll just jump right into it. Here we go. It says, "Hi, hey, Evelyn, I'm getting back to my resolutions for the year, and one was to be more environmentally conscious by cutting back on what I use and getting better at recycling and composting. I see a lot of chatter on social media about going zero waste. Is that what I should be doing? And what does it actually mean? Thanks, Mel." Well, Mel, Becky, you want to give him a quick, short answer?
Absolutely. So, quick answer, Mel, is that thumbs up on wanting to cut back on your recycling and compost. Always a good way to go with our great services. Really easy to do, right? And, you know, really that's a really good way, recycling and composting, to have less of an impact on the environment. But the best thing that you can really do is to use less stuff and buy less stuff, because most of the impact from the things that we use comes from the production aspect. So, you know, that's something to think about it. And when you are done with something, to dispose of it in the best way possible.
That's it. I mean, it's a big part of it is, you know, what you hold in your hand is just a small piece of the pie on what it took to make that thing, you know, arrive in your hand and be in the form and function that you need. So the footprint, you know, the waste shed, you know, like the drainage shed or whatever, like it's massive. I mean, you know, things made of plastics or metal, all the refinery work that needs to be done, the mining and refinery, and then the production and transportation. So it's a lot. It's not just that one item we're talking about here. So that's where we keep talking about single use, you know, single use items being like as many things that you can substitute out of your work or your life, your single use items, as many of those things you can kind of eliminate from your flow, the better, because you know, the more, even if it's a durable good that takes a lot of, you know, people talk about, well, how many times do I have to reuse my shopping bag for it to be, you know, equal to a plastic single-use bag? Well, you know, it varies depending on the material that's used in the bag. But, you know, the idea is to continue to reuse it and just not worry about it. I mean, it does have a payoff. That's the point. At some point, it will pay off.
True.
The return on investment exists. If you keep going on the single-use track, there is no return on investment. It's a zero-sum game. Yeah. So.
Exactly. So I think Mel's question too, I'm sorry, I kind of missed it in my quick answers, that zero waste is one of those terms that means so many things. And I've got this mason jar because I know that sounds like Mel too. Looking on social media, you see a lot of really like very sexy looking stuff where everyone's like, I have this mason jar and I put all of my garbage for an entire year in this one jar. And that's how I'm getting to zero waste. And so we really wanted to talk about kind of the details of unpacking this term and what that really means. Like, while that looks sexy, there's a lot that kind of goes on behind that. And zero waste is a term that doesn't kind of encapsulate everything.
It's, you know, zero waste is I like to say, it's a journey. It's not a destination, right? It's it's words to live by, if you will. You know, it's another like. So the aspiration of zero waste is, you know, commendable, and you know, there should be no guilt in it, though. You have to you do what you do. You know, do what works for you. But you know, think about it. There was a person on Twitter whose only response to, how do I plan a zero waste event? Her response was, plan ahead. That's it.
Right.
I mean, if you plan ahead and you think of everything that you have to do in your event, and that can be a birthday party for one of your children, or it can be a wedding or whatever. If you think of every step and every part of the whole event and plan ahead, you can substitute reusables and durables for those single-use items if you plan ahead. Of course, you know, there are costs sometimes associated with that, but you know, it's really, I just loved her, like she boiled it down. It wasn't going to be this big laundry list of things to do. It's just, it's all about planning.
Right.
And so it's also about planning, you know, for your meals at home too, or your meals on the go. It's like doing little things really add up.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, it's like we're talking a lot about this and it's not easy. Like I love stuff, but really it boils down to buy less stuff. Like I'm always saying at the end of every show that life is simpler. And I got a lot of stuff in my life. Like I'm always headed towards that destination. I'm always on that journey to just use less things and reuse the things that I have. And that's really kind of the ethos of, I think, what people are trying to capture in this term, the zero waste movement, is that you're just trying to have less of an impact on the planet. And one way to do that is, for some people, it's collecting, like only throwing away so much stuff as fits in one mason jar, which of course, you know, that doesn't take into account all the stuff that gets diverted into recycling and compost, right?
Yeah. So maybe we talk about that for a second here. I'm gonna get a little more comfortable because this is where you really start to understand the big picture because I mean, diversion is what we preach all the time. We talk about recycling and composting. You know, use the green cart and the blue cart.
Oh yeah, right,
you know,
behind
the garbage cart.
Right?
But
that's
right.
That's
right. I got it all over the place. It's like it's everywhere around me. But the idea is that that's winning. You know, that's fine. Right. We want diversion because we're all consuming, and everything comes in packaging, and so you know we have to eat, we have to clothe ourselves, we have to have products and things. So recycling is very important. But you know, some people have a kind of a sense of like achievement when they have so much recycling. Look how much I've got. And that's where the zero waste movement kind of has its two sides of it. If you really want to dig into the zero waste kind of concept, it would be reduce waste in all three bins as much as you can.
All the way around.
But it's not, you know, for those who have the mason jar program going and they're doing that, they're in the midst of it right now. Keep going, man. Absolutely. Recycle everything that's recyclable and compost everything you can. We live, you know, of course in Seattle in the King County, Western Washington area, we have terrific options. We have markets for recyclables that are stronger than a lot of places in the US. We have great compost facilities in our region that will take a whole bunch of things that other cities and other towns, they just don't have, a lot of places aren't even composting food yet, let alone yard waste. So the fact that we can compost so many compostable food packaging items, you know, the paper towels and pizza boxes and things like that, we're kind of lucky that way that there's much more material to divert. And then, you know, the aspiration is the mason jar kind of thing. So there's a lot to that. That the individual, you know, what we do as a consumer is like you were saying at the setup is it's purchasing too. It's how you can look for things that have recycled content, because the true definition of zero waste would be a circular model. You know, it's an efficient, you know, model of like having no waste outputs, you know, from the circle. It's all internal, just keeps churning. So we like to see that too. And some recyclables, as we've noted on many shows, some are worth more than others, and some it's harder to get things out. So even if you're, you know, not putting that material in your mason jar, you also can be thoughtful about what types of paper products you're purchasing or consuming, because like we're saying, the high gloss plastic coated paper box, it's recyclable, but there's going to be waste at the pulp mill. They're going to, I mean, not the pulp mill, the recycle plant. They're going to repulp that paper, and there's going to be some gooey stuff that comes out of that process that has to be landfilled. So it's a big picture scenario, you know.
Definitely. And I think that, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, there's kind of the two ethos. It's like just using less stuff, right? Because you're decreasing your impact on the environment by not buying so many things. And then diverting as much as possible because that's less of an impact. And then really that concept of circularity, like completely completing the circle where nothing is lost in the process of using a product, reclaiming what's left, and putting that back into the beginning and the creation of something. So those are kind of really important things to think about. And that's kind of on an individual level, but we've also talked a little bit about kind of on the bigger level, right? So sometimes companies say that they have like a zero waste manufacturing plant, which usually is not quite that circularity. If you're making a car, there's no way you're taking the waste from that and putting it back into a new car.
Like we were just talking about for the you know, the folks at home or at work or whatever. Diversion of material is great, you know, recyclable bumpers and recyclable this and that from a car plant or something. But for their waste, sometimes corporations will count in a zero waste, like waste being landfill, like the definition of waste for them is landfill bound material. They will divert things off to incineration, to waste to energy plants, which is, it's a viable, beneficial use. You know, it's not recycling, it's not composting, it's not a circular thing, but it is deriving some benefit out of that waste product rather than just burying it in the ground like, you know, like you would in a landfill. So, you know, they own that space, but they have to own that as well. It's like you have a percentage of material that is not really circularly kind of diverted. It's a dead end diversion, but it's bringing back some beneficial use value from that scenario. Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing that kind of made me think about, and we've talked about this on previous shows, is how you can also kind of look at that bigger picture, like advocacy for product stewardship, right? Companies who are owning the materials that they're putting out there for you. So we're going to have some links in our show notes to great organizations like Zero Waste Washington, some other kind of local groups like Seattle Zero Waste, that kind of help you have ideas. But Zero Waste Washington is a great organization. They do great advocacy with the legislature. They also do pilot projects. It's a really good way to kind of take that ethos to the next level beyond your own individual life. So we love them. They do great stuff. So definitely please check them out. And we'll definitely have links to that as well. So,
well, I also think that the zero waste definition, it does creep into policy. As you say, the Zero Waste Washington folks doing a lot of legislative work. And that policy is not just NGOs and government, it's corporations. So I guess I should reframe my comments about corporations who strive for zero waste. It's similar to a person who does the mason jar in a way. You know, it's like, okay, we're going to do all these things around whatever we can do with our materials, and then what's left is just this little bit. A zero waste plant for, you know, some company is still a beneficial use, and it's still, they're going in the right direction. They're on the path, you know, they're on that journey. So I applaud that fully. I think that coming back to the definition of zero waste, though, you have to consider that it's going to be different. Just to respond to Mel's question, the definition may be different for an individual, for a small company who has a sustainability plan versus a corporation who has big, lofty goals. You know, so it's hard to navigate these messages, especially when they come to you know, through social media and without definition. But it's like,
if life was so simple as everything could be like wrapped up in a simple hashtag and like, you know, a little tiny square picture, like it would be great. But we have those great resources for you. And also we saw Blue Daisy Consulting, who we've definitely worked with before, who has also been a recipient of our waste-free prevention grants.
That's right.
We'll have a link to their services. Moji is the head of that consulting firm. She does great stuff, and I know she's got a workshop coming up. So Mel, if that sounds interesting, you could totally tune into that, which would be fantastic. She's super fun, super knowledgeable, and we'll have some great tips for you. And we'll have a link to her website in our show notes as well.
That's great. And the waste-free grants are up again. They're open right now. So I think they're open for almost another month. April 16th is when they close. But yeah, SPU is giving away a bunch of money and providing a lot of support to individuals, organizations, companies, businesses who want to step forward and do some waste-free grant kind of initiatives. We're happy to work with you.
Absolutely. So all you waste nerds out there who we know are our loyal watchers and writers to us, think about it. If you've got an idea that's planted in your mind that you'd like to take to the next level, check out our waste-free prevention grants. We'll have a link to that as well. So, all right. Well, Pat, all this talk about zero waste, and Mel, I hope we gave you some really good tips. You know, zero waste, I love the way you put it, Pat. It's a journey, not a destination, right? You take what you can and leave the rest. Use what works for you, right? Like we talk about that. Life's complicated. No need to get hardcore. Unless hardcore is your thing, then good on you.
That's right.
But you know, if it's not, then great. Like we're with you. Use less stuff. Reuse things as much as possible. You're gonna do great. So thanks for that.
Becca, what is your tip for the week? What is your on this theme? What's your tip?
Absolutely. So our weekly waste tips. So we're all about using less. And one of the things that many people who know me and have eaten with me is I'm all about bringing your own utensils, right? I've had this chopstick travel kit for probably about 10 years.
Yes.
And people are always kind of surprised that I have my own chopsticks. And really it's part of it is waste reduction, but really, let's be honest, it's because I don't want to miss an eating opportunity. There might be food that is available for me to eat and I need utensils and I want to be ready. So, but what's nice about this is that it's got a little case. It's super durable. When they're dirty, you don't have to like throw a dirty fork or anything back into your bag. Like I said, I've had it forever. I also have been known to have loose forks and spoons in my bag too. No big deal, right? You're just ready to go.
Right.
And then I don't
like
need
it.
Disposable. So that's my tip.
That's right.
Be ready to eat.
I think that's great. My tip is about cloth napkins. Trying to get away from using so many paper towels or Kleenexes, cloth handkerchiefs, you know. Basically, it feels so much better too. I mean, that's why I love using a canvas bag. I hate carrying plastic bags. They just like make my hands sweat and I don't like it. So at home here, my tip for folks to get going at home, we have a 3-person household, my son and wife and I. And so we each have our own napkin ring, you know, different kind of style napkin rings. So we know which napkin is whose, and you just leave the napkins on the table and, you know, you get a few meals out of each napkin before you have to launder it. And the other thing is just throw a few napkins into every load. You don't have to run a load of laundry just for napkins. Just throw a few in every now and then. And you always have a nice drawer full of fresh napkins to use. So that's my tip.
And actually, I have to tell myself. So Pat, you know, you've shared your napkin tip with me before, and I think that's really great. And so, you know, I have younger children, and so paper towels are unfortunately one of those things that happen a lot. But to get them to keep track of their napkins is I have kind of like fun little napkins so they know which ones are theirs. So I have like these little hedgehog napkins and like this little like bread one. Nice. And then one of my kids really likes pandas. So they have a panda napkin. And then it's the same thing, right? Like we're going to use that napkin for several days. You know, they're just wiping their face and their mouth and their hands, which with kids, they get kind of gross, but still you can still get several meals.
Right. It's not about, you know, have to get so many uses out of it. You're just not using a single use one as the idea. So, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. And I don't have my spork handy, but I like to travel with a spork too, because I too, like you, do not want to miss out on a meal. And this whole, you know, working from home thing, there's not as many cakes, you know, there's not as many celebrations going on. So I miss that. I'm gonna get back to that.
Exactly. But we're ready, right, Pat? Like you and I are ready.
I'll be ready. I will have my spork.
If there's some cake or some potluck to be had, like we're going to be there and we're going to be ready.
That's right. Potluck. Oh, just the term potluck just makes me excited. We're close. We're getting there.
I know.
You know.
So
all right.
Well, Mel, this was such a great question. And thanks for those of you who hung in there with us. You know, we love talking about this stuff. This episode's a little bit more, but we hope we had some great tips for you, really good links. And, you know, thanks for being on this journey with us, right? Like, waste reduction, zero waste, recycling, composting, not a destination, it's a journey. So thanks for being on it with us.
That's right.
And with that,
good.
I'm Becca Fong, and remember, life's simpler with less stuff.
That's a perfect phrase for this week, Becca. And I'm Pat Kaufman. Remember to recycle right. We'll see you all next week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.